Happy Halloween and welcome to this year's trio of Castlevania reviews. This time we're going to be looking at one of the best eras of the entire series, the 16-bit era. This generation saw 3 great Castlevania games, and one that was... you'll see. Anyways, let's kick things off with the SNES classic, Super Castlevania 4. I didn't get my first console until 1994, so I had to rely on friends to find out about and play new games. One of my favorites that I always played at my friend's house was Castlevania on the NES. The game was quite different than anything that I played at the time, with its dark atmosphere and classic horror film elements. It was extremely challenging and I never made it very far, but still loved it and played it every chance I got. I ended up missing out on the other NES and Game Boy releases, and didn't get the chance to play the series again until Super Castlevania 4 on the Super Nintendo. When my buddy rented it, I was extremely excited to check it out, and the game did not disappoint. This is supposed to be a remake of the first game on NES, but so much was added to this one that it feels like an entirely different game. Once again, you play as Simon Belmont, and must fight your way through all sorts of monsters and eventually face off against Dracula. As far as story goes, there's not much here, just a brief little intro at the beginning of the game. Which is fine, since this series has always been more about the gameplay, music, and atmosphere for me. This was an early release on Nintendo's 16-bit console, but still managed to pump out some very nice graphics. There are tons of cool little details in the background, and some excellent Mode 7 effects as well. There's one stage where you have to jump across swinging chandeliers, and a couple of others with rotating backgrounds. These effects were extremely impressive at the time and really showed off what Nintendo's latest console could do. Simon's sprite and all the enemies look great as well, although you will encounter some slowdown from time to time. One of my favorite things about this game is how well it controls. You have lots more control of Simon when jumping, and can now whip in each different directions. It's also nice that the sub-weapons were mapped to the right shoulder button, which makes using them much easier. While I love the controls in this one, there are some out there that don't care for them, mainly because it makes the game much easier than previous entries in the series. That's not to say that this game is a cakewalk. There are still some tricky enemies and difficult sections that will need to be dealt with. One drawback to this game is the lack of strategy for boss fights. While they are usually quite large and look really cool, most of the time you can just mash the attack button to win. If you couldn't tell by the music playing in the background, the soundtrack is outstanding. Every track is fantastic, always fits in well with the level, and greatly enhances the creepy atmosphere. My favorite song is Forest of Monsters, which plays during the second stage. Super Castlevania 4 is an amazing game and a great example of a remake done right. It may not provide the same challenge as some of the earlier games in the series, but is still extremely fun, and it's easy to see why this sits at the top of many gamers' best Castlevania game lists. The smooth controls, creative level design, and superb music all combine to make this one of the best in the series, and one of the best Super Nintendo games as well. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.